Let's go!
Greetings Keyblade wielders, I'm OCDsaster, and in today's video, we are taking a dive into summons in the Kingdom Hearts franchise and theorizing what they will be like in Kingdom Hearts 4. What? Oh, they're called links now? Okay. This video will be broken down into 3 parts. The first part will briefly cover what summons and links are in Kingdom Hearts and the way their mechanics work in each of the games. Of the ones that I played, so Kingdom Hearts 1, Kingdom Hearts 2, Birth by Sleep, Dream Drop Distance, and Kingdom Hearts 3. The second part is what I would like to see the summons or links be in Kingdom Hearts 4, and finally, the third part will be what I actually think the mechanic will be like in Kingdom Hearts 4. With that being said, grab some sea salt ice cream, pull up a chair, and let's talk about Kingdom Hearts summons and links. Believe it or not, the first game to introduce summons in Kingdom Hearts, it's the first installment. Crazy, I know. Summons were not new to the JRPG scene, especially from Square Enix. A popular game known as Final Fantasy, for example, had summon mechanics as well as many other RPG titles. So what are summons? Well, it's how it sounds. The player controlling the main protagonist of the game summons another player or creature onto the battlefield for various effects. Attack, defense, buffs, whatever the development team really wants the summon to do. In Kingdom Hearts, Nomura and the team decided it would be appropriate for Sora to be able to summon various Disney characters onto the battlefield to flesh out the crossover between Final Fantasy and Disney worlds. Genie, Dumbo, Mushu, Simba, Bambi, and Tinkerbell would each be an unlockable summon for Sora to use in his arsenal throughout the game. In Kingdom Hearts 1, when the Disney worlds fell to darkness, these Disney characters got lost from their worlds and placed into a gem that can only be awakened from the blue fairy godmother. Once a gem is obtained, Godmother will release the summon to their true form, and Sora can throw them out at a Heartless against their will like the sadistic fuck he truly is. Now, I could break down every summon for every KH game, but that is not the purpose of this video. Some summons deal AoE damage, AoE buffs, crowd control, push enemies back, heal Sora and his friends, and maybe some other stuff, I don't know. Summons are supposed to be situational. I barely use them, even though I know quite a few speedrunners who use them for the most effective boss strats. The last thing I would say about KH summons is, although they are not extremely broken, the process of actually summoning them is very generous. The MP or magic point Sora has gets drained when he summons a cute Disney character to fight to the death. The mechanic is generous in the fact that Sora can regenerate MP quickly while the summon is still out fighting. Meaning, by the time the summon disappears from the fight, unless manually dismissed by the player, Sora should have enough MP to keep summoning, well, more summons, especially in the later parts of the game. Summons are fine in KH1. I love the entrance animations more than the actual summons themselves. What about you? Let me know in the comments below. Kingdom Hearts 2 brings back the summons. This time around you have options such as Genie, Chicken Little, Peter Pan, and Stitch. A smaller cast of Disney characters, but the mechanics were tweaked on this one. Instead of using MP, the player would use the new drive form gauge to summon Disney characters at the expense of Donald and Goofy, just like in the first game, which I failed to mention. Whoops. The biggest deal with the drive gauge was that the player had to choose between the new drive form mechanic for combat or the summons, and the drive forms normally won that decision because they're just so fucking cool. Anyway, the player would activate the summon and the drive gauge would slowly deplete. Once the gauge ran out, the summon would disappear, but the player could also manually dismiss the summon to save some of the drive meter. Summons in KH2 differ from KH1 because they had more passive attacks and abilities, and a final move that the player could select at any time at the expense of the summon immediately disappearing after using it. They also were just lazily found in chests or unlocked through the story. No gems this time. This time, they were charms. Summons in KH2 were definitely more powerful and useful than Kingdom Hearts 1, which makes sense because there were more enemies to fight. Summons could also be leveled up in Kingdom Hearts 2, unlike its predecessor. However, leveling up only affected how long the summon could stay out the fight. The summons leveled up by how many times the drive gauge dropped. I think it would have been cool to have the summons get more abilities as they leveled up, but to each their own. Only Genie really did this for his mechanic because he had forms just like Sora, and whatever form Sora had available, he had available. If Sora had Valor and Wisdom form, Genie had Valor and Wisdom form. The player could switch Genie's forms around for unique fighting styles and team-ups with Sora. Everyone else was pretty much useless, except for Chicken Little, who could draw enemies in towards Sora to dispose of. What did you guys think of the summons in KH2? Comment down below on who was your favorite. I also summon you to help me fight my depression by hitting that subscribe button and mashing that like button like you mash the X on the controller to play Kingdom Hearts games. I'd really appreciate it. Did you know? Chicken Little, the movie, was not even released before he was a summon in KH2. It was actually the little guy's first appearance, and it probably should have stayed that way. Alright, here's when things start getting weird. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep came out after KH2. It did not have summons, but a new mechanic called Link. Instead of a Disney character coming out to assist, one of the three protagonists you play as, Terra, Aqua, or Ven, could link themselves to each other or other characters they interacted with throughout the story. Linking with said characters would change these characters' command decks to abilities and attacks tailored to that character that they could use temporarily until a finisher was built up. As the character was linked, tokens could randomly fall out from the defeated enemies and grant it a buff to even more powerful abilities for that link. This could happen a total of 2 times. Essentially, each link could be leveled up 3 times. There was a link meter that would build up and deplete when the link was being used. Like summons, links could also be themed from Disney characters such as Snow White, Cinderella, or Maleficent, among others. My biggest gripe for links is that I believe that they disappear when you enter a new room. Another similarity with summons was that links could help in different situations during the campaign of Birth by Sleep. For example, if Terra, a normally heavy attack-based character with limited magic abilities, was up against a boss who was more defenseless to magic-based attacks, Terra could link with Aqua and use her magic abilities and spells to deal more damage to the foe. In my opinion, links were not as fun as summons because you could not really play as the other characters, a thought I'll get back to in part 2. I believe links replaced summons due to the constraint of the PSP system. Birth by Sleep was originally a PSP exclusive, getting criticized for its flat and lifeless rooms. I personally believe the PSP did not have enough processing power for Ven, Terra, or Aqua, along with another controlled character on the same screen with enemies or bosses. Probably why you don't have party members either, except for some minor boss battles as well. And the AI is bad. Birth by Sleep links are second to the bottom of my list, but I think they are ambitious and have inspired my idea for KH4 summons. What is the worst link or summon mechanic in the Kingdom Hearts franchise, you ask? Well... Dream Drop Distance replaces party members with Dream Spirits, Pokemon-like creatures in the realm of dreams that you can train up like a poor man's Nintendogs. The spirits have a link mechanic in which Sora Riku can get ability, movement, and attack changes depending on the type of spirit they created and how they level up their skill tree. This is the farthest mechanic from summons and links, but it has the word link in the HUD of the spirit, so I decided to make mention of it. It sucks, I hate it, we move on. Kingdom Hearts 3's summons are similar to the first and second installment, except they chose to call them links again. At first I found this decision odd, but they haven't used summons in a decade. Nomura tried to distance Kingdom Hearts from Final Fantasy, and thematically, links make more sense than summons, but I'll get into that in part 2. KH3 does not have a drive gauge, rather, the links drain Sora's MP bar all the way, as if he was casting Cure. When I say all the way, I mean the player has to have a full MP bar to use a link, and then wait for the cooldown to use it again. The Link roster this time around is Stitch, Wreck-It Ralph, Simba, Ariel, and Meow Wow. Each Link is way more diverse than ever, some with multiple movesets to use, each equipped with a finisher if you catch it in time before the meter ends. What I like about KH3 Links is how different they are from one another. I do, however, wish they had more Disney representation from the past worlds that did not make it into Kingdom Hearts 3, like Jack Skellington or the Steamboat Willie version of Pete. Adding Meow Wow was a nice touch because it's not from a Disney property, rather a past Kingdom Hearts property. Remember the Dream Spirits I mentioned last chapter? Yeah, this motherfucker's finisher has him pop and flood the screen with all of them rascals, killing frame rate like no other. Another reason why I believe Nomura and the team decided to go with links instead of summons was because it made Kingdom Hearts 3's battle mechanics feel blended with the past titles and spin-offs. Without a doubt, the links in KH3 are the most beautiful. It's also nice that they added an option to skip their entrance cinematic, but I mean, why would you want to? It's so stunning and personalized. They do not, however, come without flaws. The links in KH3 are the most broken out of the rest of the franchise. Because you cannot level them up, the links stay at their own behemoth power scale. Also meant to be situational like its predecessors, Kingdom Hearts 3's links fail in this department. Simba, for example, is far more useful than most other links in any situation, outputting tons of damage, crowd control, and a finisher that melts enemies away quite literally. It also is more difficult for enemies to hit you. Oh yeah, in Kingdom Hearts 3, the links do not make you invincible, so when you're bouncing around on Kitty Cat or making splashes with Ariel, you can still get damaged by enemies. This is for the most part not too bad. However, when you activate a link, your health gets filled all the way back up, another more broken part of this mechanic. Choosing a link ends up being a more viable option than shot locks, Keyblade transformations, and sometimes even magic in Kingdom Hearts 3, because you get healed all the way, and you have a really powerful attack and movement with some of these links. When the Remind DLC was announced for KH3, many of us thought the base game would update and nerf the links a little bit. Perhaps the MP gauge couldn't recharge while the link was out, or you couldn't heal yourself when summoning Disney friends. Nope, they would not be touched and never will be. It's just kind of goofy seeing Data Org members getting demolished by a prancing fire lion or twirling water woman. I don't know. Alright, with that out of the way, let's now talk about what I would like to see in Kingdom Hearts 4 in regards to summons or links. This is just what I would like to see. It is my opinion, my own creative idea. Do I actually think it's going to be in the game? That's for part 3. So, what would I like to see in Kingdom Hearts 4 in regards to summons or links? I think calling them links is actually more appropriate, because the whole theme of Kingdom Hearts is Sora is creating these bonds, these links with other characters and their hearts, and so I do agree with links being the term to keep going in this franchise. I think that's absolutely fine, because Sora is linking himself to these other people. However, in Kingdom Hearts 4, I would like this to work more like Birth by Sleep. Now, before you start swarming the comments and raging, hear me out. I would like this to be a hybrid between the summons of Kingdom Hearts 3 and the links of Birth by Sleep. What I mean by that is, if my theory is correct, you probably will be able to play as Sora, and maybe even Riku and Kairi in this next iteration. We don't know yet. We literally don't know, and that's too much of a leap to really make a claim yet. However, I don't think all the Kingdom Hearts characters are going to be back in this game. I think it's going to dumb down the amount of fan service that Kingdom Hearts 3 did. So I don't think we're going to be seeing everybody. Now, who those are, I don't know, right? Nomura did say in interviews that he is kind of sad that we're saying goodbye to some of these characters. We all know that that can change, but I don't think we'll be able to get everybody in here. So it would be cool if you're playing as Sora and you're like, oh hey, I miss Lee, I have this link connection to Lee, let me go ahead real quick and link with him and start playing as Lee. And what I mean by that is, the way this would work, this is the way I would like to see it in Kingdom Hearts 4. Sora would link to the character of his choosing, whether it be like Axel/Lee, whether it be a Disney character, whoever he wants it to be. He'll link. It'll show kind of like a ghostly form of that character, and they'll start to fade in over Sora. And Sora will actually turn into that character, showing visually that it's still Sora that you're playing as. He's just embodying the person he's linked with. This can be similar in Melody of Memory, where Kairi kind of takes the form of Sora because Sora is in his heart, and Sora fights Xehanort, but you're actually playing as Kairi. It makes more sense if you played Melody of Memory. So I'm thinking something along those lines. So if you're missing Lee and you want to play like Lee, you could link with Lee. Sora will do the transformation into Lee. Maybe there's like he bursts in the flames and Lee steps out. And then you have Lee's Keyblade or his his spike wheel things. I would prefer those, but they'll probably give him the Keyblade. And then you can actually do a moveset similar to Lee, and you would actually feel like you're playing him instead of Sora, even though you're still technically Sora. Does that make sense? I think that'd be really cool. You could switch it with Ven, Terra, Aqua, and then Disney characters as well. You could turn into, I'm just going to use Jack Skeleton as an example again. You turn into Jack Skeleton, you can throw pumpkins, you have different movement. It's kind of like form changes. When you do Keyblade form changes, you have different abilities and different types of movement. It's the same. You get to play as Disney characters and play as Kingdom Hearts characters that you normally wouldn't play in for a normal campaign, but it's part of this links mechanic, and it still thematically makes sense because Sora's heart is connected to these characters. As far as, if it takes MP, all that stuff, I don't really care too much about that. This is just my big brain idea, and I really don't think it's gonna happen, unfortunately. What do you guys think about my idea for Kingdom Hearts 4 Links and Summons? Comment down below, and let's move on to the final part of this video. So, what do I think Kingdom Hearts 4 is gonna bring to the table? I do think they're gonna keep calling these things links. I don't think they're gonna go back to summons. Are they going to switch things up? I really don't know. It's all speculative, which is why I'm kind of just like on the fence about it. Maybe when we get more trailers, when the game's closer to coming out, we'll know for a fact. I definitely know my idea is a little bit out there, and I don't think they're ambitious enough to do that. I challenge them, and I hope I'm wrong when they do something like that. But I think it's going to be similar to that of Kingdom Hearts 3, where you have a handful of Disney characters that you can, summon, and they'll fight with you or whatever. And that's fine. That's dandy. If they do go down that route again, I just really hope they give us more of a roster. I feel like they're kind of getting smaller and smaller with the Links and Summon characters, and I get that they want to do more of a diverse kind of mechanic when you're using them. For example, like I said, Kingdom Hearts 3, all the summons play differently and attack differently, which is good, which is nice. I like that. But I would like more than 4 or 5 Links. I would like to see a Prethla, as that's how you say it, a whole bunch of them, because I think it would really help flush out the universe. And like I said, if we're doing Links, Sora's heart is connected to a lot of people, a lot of Disney characters. So I think the most that they would do for Kingdom Hearts 4 out of my idea was maybe they will allow some of these lesser known or not story driven Kingdom Hearts characters be summons. Like maybe Cloud can come out and fight alongside Sora, maybe some of the Twilight Town gang, something like that. I think would be the most they would get to, but it wouldn't be Sora turning into them and you getting to play as them. It'll probably be like they're alongside Sora for a quick little thing, like all the other Links and Summons from previous games. But yeah, that's gonna wrap up this video, guys. It was a long one. If you made it to the very end, how about you comment down below how dedicated you are? And I thank you very much for making it all the way through. It means so much to me. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. And yeah, this was a fun video to make, and there will be more to come down the road where I talk about mechanics that are already in Kingdom Hearts that I eventually want to see, evolve into Kingdom Hearts 4. So that way I'm not just pushing out speculative, theorizing content. I'm using a foundation of what we actually know and, have tangible things. I also want to mention in my previous videos, I was quoting Regular Pat, and it was a misquote. I was saying he was saying temper expectation. No, I was saying tamper expectations. It's actually temper expectations. So I just wanted to correct myself on that. It makes a big difference, and people did call me out for it. Thank you guys so much. Please let your hearts continue to be your guiding key. Love one another. Be safe, and I'll see you in the next video.